The Revolution Podcast, episode number 24. Feedback 4, The Song Remains the Same.
Hi, you're listening to Revolution Podcast. This is Maria Howell as Grace on Revolution.
Golden Spiral Media presents The Revolution Podcast. Instantly watch unlimited TV episodes and movies over the internet right on your TV, computer, and various mobile devices. Watch as much as you want, as often as you want, for only $7.99 a month. Visit goldenspiralmedia.com/Netflix and start your free trial today. Welcome back to the Revolution Podcast.
Man, you're just trying to interrupt me there. I'm Jeremy.
Hello, Jeremy the illiterate. I am Daryl.
I didn't think I was reading anything. How am I illiterate?
I was just testing you to see if you were following along in the chat room or not. Somebody asked why you never read any of the Rev Twit stuff, and I said you're illiterate, and that's why I was looking at you funny while the music was playing.
It stopped loading.
Oh, did it? Oh,
yeah,
bummer.
so.
I thought I was giving you a hard time.
No, you weren't. You were just making googly eyes at me for no reason.
Well, I had a reason. I just didn't realize you didn't realize what the reason was.
Yeah.
I guess the reason you don't do any of the Rev Twit, in the Fringe podcast, we had the twinge question of the week, which Clint did. Clint sent out the email or the twit. Can I talk? Clint sent out the tweet every week. And then it was his segment. He kind of just did it, and he read them all and stuff like that. And then I chimed in, most of the time cheesy quips as he read through them. So since I send out the question each week, I kind of took on the Clint role of that segment. So it's your job to, add a little quips from time to time as we go through that segment.
I'm not very quippy, but I will say the aphasia is strong with you. So.
All right.
It's kind of like force, but
I took a shower this morning. Yeah. I didn't realize. Well, we're glad that you guys have joined us for this episode of the Revolution Podcast as we are bringing you the feedback that you brought to us for the April 8th episode of Revolution, which was entitled The Song Remains the Same. Thanks to everybody who sent in feedback this week for the show.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. We encourage all of you to send in feedback. If there was something that we didn't cover or you thought you had a good idea in, send it over to us. And there's no harm in sending it in. Break the ice, get the courage up, call in, email. You can write it out and read it off to us. That's cool. We don't mind that at all. Just encourage you to participate in the feedback podcast. We love hearing from the listeners out there because you guys often have the best thoughts on the show. And so we encourage you to send that in. So we're going to get things kicked off this week with some fan feedback. I don't know why I said kick things off with that. I mean, that's what we do every week, right?
Yeah.
All right. Mark is in the live show right now. He says, be careful. Sending in feedback is addictive. And I completely agree, Mark. We hear from Mark every week. We hear from Jim every week. We hear from Corey every week. We have all three of those guys coming your way again this week. And I will say, sending in feedback is what got me into podcasting.
Really?
It is. I sent my first feedback into the Weekly Lost podcast that Cliff and Stephanie Ravenscraft were producing during, I think I joined in season 2 maybe of Lost, and that's when I discovered their show and started sending in feedback. I made their show a couple of times, and it was like the coolest thing ever, and that got me listening to more and more podcasts and interacting with podcasts. And then when Fringe came along, it was, had the idea. I didn't have the idea. Jason had the idea to do the podcast, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. But the bug first bit me by calling in feedback to other podcasts. It is addictive. It's awesome though too. We encourage all of you guys to do that. We have one we're going to read this week. This one came in from Barb. Jeremy, would you like to take it or shall I?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it.
All right.
And she really hurts my feelings here with her intro. Hello, Daryl and Jeremy. That's not even the painful part. Our great podcasters from the Revolution Republic of, oh God, Texas.
That's right.
I don't want to be a part of Texas. But seriously, I like Texas as much as their football team of the Longhorns isn't the best on the face of the planet. The state, they're a good state.
Okay.
They got our back.
I could go for that.
Yeah, so yeah, we got their back. I don't know who's really on the back of each other, but anywho, this is Barb from Phoenix, a.k.a. Tangier14, with feedback on last night's episode, The Same Old Song. Very nice. I see what you did there. After this episode, I'm feeling a little lost, with half our team headed to the caves and the other half, oops, wrong show.
I see what she did there.
Yes. I hope that wasn't the reason for the episode title. The song remains the same. The use of old and familiar plot devices, although it may not sound like it from that comment, I really did enjoy this episode in which we were given answers to so many of our questions. We now know more about the power going out, although we didn't know what went wrong at the tower and if that was intentional. Were Danny's asthma attacks caused by tiny virus-like machines that the post-blackout population is ingesting? If everyone is breathing them, then I'm surprised they don't all light up like bright little fireflies. Speaking of bright, Jason tricked his father into revealing the mystery mission site, but then he showed his little boy band face again, by forcing the team into action before they had fully assessed the situation, resulting in half the rebel team being wiped out. I think we will have opportunities to see Jason's character mature, as we've seen so far this season with Charlie. It was nice to see Tom Neville back in full form this week, with his old beaten-down insurance adjuster feelings surfacing when confronted by wannabe evil boss Randall. It brought out all his frustrations and bully tendencies. It will be interesting to see Tom and Julie on the road, and probably means the demise of Julie. All right, that's on Tangier for saying Julia. So,
oh, you're gonna throw her under the bus?
Call Tangier out on that one. Thanks, Barb. That would be a likely catalyst for Tom turning against Monroe, as we've said would have to occur if there is some type of redemption for this character. Killing the priest sure isn't going to buy him redemption. But I have to ask, after 17 years of no tunes, would your first choice really be Lionel Richie? Oh well, guess it could have been worse. Like Tower of Power or NSYNC. I see what you did there. That's it for this week. This is Barb in Phoenix, signing off from the Great Wasteland Territory, where it ain't worth messing with us. Nicely played, Barb.
Good feedback. Good job, Barb.
Yes, she said a couple of things we've had a discussion about today.
Uh-huh.
Mainly being the breathing things in. I brought up Danny's asthma being caused by those nanites, and I think that's great. It's a great question that we might have to get into a little later about how, like, where are these nanites and what are they doing to your body?
Yeah. When you say later, you mean in the Twitter, the RevTwit?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some other questions we need to address on the nanites that we'll talk about there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the team splitting up again? I know she made the joke about it, being like half the team's going to the caves, the other half, staying on the beach like Lost. But now, how do you feel about the team splitting up again?
Disappointed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Me too.
So,
and I expressed my frustration with Rachel rejecting Charlie to go on the trip with them, and it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem logical that they would send these two out knowing that they're going to die. No, they're not going to die. They're going to make it to the tower. This is TV, their main characters, blah, blah, blah. But it was not the logical thing to do. So it bugged me.
Yeah, lots of things bug you.
You bug me.
Well, that's easily said. But
yep.
She brings up the tunes, Lionel Richie.
Uh-huh.
We kind of hinted, we didn't even hint. We discussed that before about who we would have liked to hear, and and I agree that Lionel Richie wouldn't have been my first choice, but kind of like I said in the last episode, it's music. You've not heard it in so long. I think just having music on a stereo would have just been good for me.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
Right.
Rolling Stones, Tangier says.
Yeah. So
that would have been all right.
She talked about, and when she's writing about Jason, how he forces their hand by jumping into the fight early. It seems like he's taken the place of Charlie here. What do you think? like the immature Charlie.
A little bit. I think it's a little premature to say that just because this was the first time we saw him. You know, it could have been that he was really, like you theorized in the last episode, that he was firing a warning shot essentially. But we'll see. I think that's possible. I don't think I could say at this point that I have enough evidence or data points to conclude that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Let's get into some of the audio that we received. Thanks, Barb, for sending that in. Love having your feedback. Okay, let's listen to this one. Who Corey always does such a good job. Here's Corey's.
Oh, Daryl, Jeremy. Sorry, got a little distracted there. Lionel Richie does that to me. So, I borrowed a pendant off Rachel so I could send you guys some feedback, but I better be quick about it because I'm pretty sure she's around here somewhere and she wants to throw in some acid. So, Revolution, episode 13. Unlucky 13. Not this time around because this episode was freaking sweet. We got, we got some action. We got a few answers. We got Miles and Rachel making out. I mean, whoa, man, this series is really starting to take off. I mean, they stepped it up a level for this. It was so great. The interrogation of Neville. The whole time I couldn't tell if him being captured was part of his plan. Of course, Jason going in there to let him go. Maybe a little bit more. I was like, I think he's playing him, but still there was that doubt. So, man, it was just great. And, man, the way they explained why the power was out, like these little microscopic machines, I mean, that makes so much sense. And, this whole time, I just always, pictured it was, some central location that was emitting a beam. And, back in the earlier parts of the season, we always theorized that the pendant sort of just put a dampener around things, which I guess they sort of do, but it's almost as if they just deactivate these little microscopic machines. I mean, that's, I looked at that, I'm like, yeah, man, that's plausible. That makes sense. So it's really cool. And Rachel going off to get to the tower. I was really hoping that would happen, so I'm glad that's going ahead. I really don't think that that they're never going to see Rachel again. They might have been pandering to us there a little bit, but at the end of the day, it was really cool. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back to my Lionel.
Oh, sounds like he wrecked the car there while he was listening to Lionel.
Did he wreck it or did he get blown up?
Well, probably the latter. Yeah.
Okay.
Corey, great job.
Yeah, good job.
Very entertaining.
So
some good thoughts too. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, I didn't know. I knew, so I can't really play the dumb card. But Lionel Richie all the way down under. Nice. All right.
Hey, he's a worldwide phenomenon.
Phenomenon, huh?
Phenomenon. Boy, how's that?
Phenomena.
All right, I'll get us back on track this time. He talks about Neville being captured. He thought for a while that was part of his plan. And of course, now we know that it wasn't. But there was a good amount of discussion in the chat room on Monday night as we're all watching the episode that it was part of Neville's plan to get captured. Was that a thought that you had, or what?
No, not in the manner he got captured.
Right.
He had a 1% chance of surviving that, and he happened to survive it without a scratch. So
no, he had some scratches.
A couple
and
of
stuff.
scratches.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was totally unexpected. I mean, he doesn't know where they're at. He's driving to the cement factory. Oh, I'm sorry, the factory.
The cement factory.
Cement. Is it really how you say it? Cement?
Some people do.
Man.
The wrong people.
Like Texas.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure they say cement down there too.
Yeah, and nuclear.
Yeah. I did not think it was part of his plan, but I did think it was when people started discussing it. I thought it was a legitimate thought.
Right.
But I had the same thing you did
Okay.
there with why. I mean, but that didn't mean that his plan still wasn't to get captured. Maybe it just happened in a different way. But I didn't think so either.
True.
Yeah.
So.
He enjoyed Jason playing Tom.
Yeah.
Again, I thought that was a great scene.
Mm-hmm. So, did he say Julia at all?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't think he did. And Tangier, please forgive me. Daryl has confused me to thinking it's Julie. And
Is it
you and I
Julia?
are both right. Yeah, I IMDb'd it after I
It's
corrected
Julia.
Tangier.
So that's what I did last time. Was I called it Julie instead
right.
of Julia?
And so when I said
so now I'm
Julia earlier
confused.
and you said it's Julie, and then
Yeah.
you corrected me, no.
Well, I'm just now. I'm confused now. So
Yeah.
my apologies.
There's a movie probably made about those two characters, but I don't
Julie
know.
and Julia.
Yeah. So it's the same person, right?
I haven't seen that movie. I know which movie you're talking
Okay.
about, but I haven't seen it. Sorry.
I haven't seen it either.
And then the last thing that I wrote down that he brought up was that he was excited that Rachel was going to the tower, and I don't disagree with that. I know we just kind of
Right.
said that was kind of a lame-o way that they did that. I'm glad they're going to the tower. I think they need to go to the tower. We need to find out what's at the tower. We need to rescue Grace and whomever else is there. I guess John. Well, is John there? I don't know if John is there or not, but
Leave him.
so I'm
Traitor.
glad that they're going to the tower. It just didn't make sense to me that they broke up the team the way they did.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I think Charlie needs to go with Rachel there. But one thing that does kind of make me think here is Miles has to train the rebellion, and Childs can't go to the tower if half of Childs is training the rebellion.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was inevitable and we should have just seen it coming.
Are we really going to throw out the sudden but inevitable betrayal line again?
It wasn't sudden and it wasn't a betrayal. It was just inevitable.
Okay. I won't bring it up then if you won't.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Corey, for sending that awesome feedback in. Let's move forward with Jim.
Happy Podcast Tuesday, Revolutionaries. This is Jim in Wisconsin with my feedback for The Song Remains the Same. For some reason, this episode was my favorite so far since the show came back. I'm going to give it 9 Lionel Richie loving lackeys out of 10. We got some interesting plot info and some great character development this week, but it was the subplots that really had me intrigued, and I can't wait to see where they all go from here. For starters, Randall seems to have everything going according to plan. I can't help but notice that he's slowly starting to break up the leadership of the Great Republic. He's got Tom pretty much out of the way, and it looks as if he's trying to get Monroe separated from his top officers. It should make for an easier overthrow, but it may be too obvious that Monroe could be ready for it. And is it just me, or is that creepy smile that Randall gives as he insults people making him look more like an insane psycho instead of an evil genius? He's done it to both Monroe and Neville now, and I think it helps solidify his role as the main villain. The next plot point is the whole nanite thing. I love how Aaron is now in the know as to what happened, but all the sordid details were explained off camera. Suffice it to say, I wasn't expecting them to show us the cause of the blackout this early. I mean, we still need more backstory on that whole issue, but it's looking less and less likely that the Mathesons had anything to do with letting them all go. Perhaps level 12 at the tower is where everyone will meet up for the season finale and decide whether or not to turn the power back on. And did I hear right that the tower is located on the other side of the Plains Nation? Isn't that where the wasteland is? It would be funny if the wasteland is an area that everyone is afraid to go to, but in actuality it's all lush and beautiful and hiding the fact that it still has electricity somewhere. Maybe the tower will be located in a town called Miranda. Anyway, Tom had a good showing this week. His character played fun mind games with Miles and even tried to get into Jason's head by bringing up his mother. It was nice to see Tom get tricked into revealing the location of his mission, but he of course gets the last laugh by escaping from his cell. And why did he feel the need to kill the unarmed Padre? I can see killing the large man holding the sword, but he could have used the Padre as a hostage to get out instead. That would have given them some time to chat about things and let Tom give an actual confession. After his actions in the cell, though, I think Tom is too far gone to change sides now. A good man, just doing his job to protect his family, would have found another way. He's obviously on the run with Julia now, but I really hope they don't let him join up with the rebels. The only way he can redeem himself is to die saving one of his family members or one of the good guys in order to stop whoever is holding all the cards at the end. I had high hopes for Tom, but I don't think they're going to pan out. And that brings me to Rachel. This episode made her out to be the caring mother we all hoped she would have been all along. I really started to like her and get behind her attempts to protect Charlie and avenge Danny. But one episode doesn't convince me that she's completely on our side. I'll be interested to see what her motives are once she gets to the tower with Aaron. It would be a neat twist to see that she's been on Randall's side all along, and that the entire goal was to get one of them down to level 12 to control the nanites. I hope not, but it would be a great cliffhanger if that were the case. In any event, she and Aaron have one heck of a walk ahead of them. I can only imagine the hilarity that will ensue as they trek across the Plains Nation. Lastly, I want to congratulate Malcolm Reynolds on his Geek Madness tournament win. My overall champ, Optimus Prime, came up a bit short, but at least he lost to the guy that took out the majority of the Star Wars cast. Also, congrats and well wishes go out to you, Daryl, as you embark on your self-employed journey. Good luck with everything. From the corner of Shut Up and Stay Here, Jim in Wisconsin.
Excellent.
Very. We should just have him do the podcast.
Hey, Jim. I don't know if I mentioned this to Jeremy yet, but I'm looking for a new co-host.
Oh, dear. It's my asthma, isn't it?
It is.
Oh.
It was my...
Well, I like how he's still pushing my Vader hypothesis with Rachel. Thank you, Jim, for trying to keep her evil. I really appreciate that.
So maybe that's why Rachel left Charlie behind, because she didn't need somebody with good intentions that she could, like, she could take Aaron.
I
right?
would root for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might...
Who
that
can't take Aaron? I mean, the little kids took Aaron.
Yeah.
So anybody can take Aaron.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a target.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
You know, that's why she took him. You don't have to be able to fight a bear to overcome a bear.
Outrun the other guy.
Outrun the other guy. She's good. She'll at least get past the first fight.
One down, a couple hundred to go, maybe.
Yeah, exactly right. But you know what? We saw earlier in the season that Maggie was able to walk from the West Coast all the way and to the east, and then up and down the seaboard. So it's definitely possible to do it and not be killed by bandits or something like that. You got to have some skills and some wits, which Rachel has, but it's still a big task that they are taking.
Does she have those wits? I mean, she's been in a prison cell for however many years.
Well, we know that she's not afraid to step up when threatened.
Yeah.
We saw that in the first flashback. Not the first flashback, but
Yeah.
the first one we saw with her after the blackout, right? The guy tried to take the food. She killed him.
I have a new theory.
All right, lay it on us.
The thing she took out of her son.
The capsule?
Mm-hmm. It grants force powers. So you can manipulate the nanites.
The nanites. Well, okay. All right.
I'm just saying.
And that's plausible.
It's pushing it. But, I mean, dude, we have floating nanites.
Right.
So, midichlorians, anybody?
It's got to come into place
Sorry.
somehow.
I had to bring that word in.
That's all right. All right. Let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, yes. He says that a good man would have found another way regarding Randall. There's no question. He didn't have to kill Nicholas or the other guy.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I agree. He's definitely not good.
No.
So,
no.
And he mentioned that he thinks this makes him irredeemable, which I kind of pointed out in the podcast on Tuesday. But
I see what you did there.
Yes, you did. Everybody, it's April 11th today. Anywho.
Do we time travel back to April 9th?
Crap. Train of thought derailed.
You just had did I ruin it?
Yeah, I can't even remember where I was going.
Oh, man, I feel bad.
I nailed the wall. So.
All right.
Batter up.
You get hit by an IED?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, if you think about it again, just blurt it out. I think that too points to... I'm not going to say he's not redeemable, that there's no hope. And Jim did make a good point, too, that redemption might come through him sacrificing himself for the people.
Right.
And that definitely would seem to be his best hope at this point for redemption, at least in the eyes of the audience. But there still could be redemption coming his way. But I think it would come through the death of his wife, as I threw out there in the podcast last Tuesday.
So death the ace of spades, I guess, if you will, is in Tom's life. Somebody around him or himself has to die.
Yes,
for his redemption.
Definitely.
What if he dies and not redeemed?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Because I think you'd feel like, well, he had it coming.
Yeah.
You know?
At
he
this
has
point,
slaughtered a lot of people.
Yeah.
Women, children, civilians.
Priests.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who kills an unarmed pastor or I guess priest specifically in this case. Yeah, you're pretty cold. I mean, I don't know. Granted, Nick was kind of the leader of the group. So.
He wasn't, he wasn't just a passive guy. He was, he would take up a gun and earn his right along.
But he's unarmed. I mean,
there was no need for that.
And
you look him in the eye with the knife up to him, and then you thrust it into his heart.
He's worse than Monroe.
That wasn't just like the first guy where he took one big swoop and sliced the guy's throat. Right. He took a minute, thought about what he was going to do, let it sink into Nicholas, and then killed him. Mm-hmm. That's a different level of homicide right there.
That's, first degree?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
a good thing he's not in Texas.
He might be. That might be where he has to run to.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good job, Jim.
Thank you, Jim, for that. Let's move on to Comey.
Hey, guys. This is Comac Polo calling in from Savannah, Georgia, calling for the Revolution podcast. First off, I am a lawyer, not a scientist, so I do not fully understand the science behind the reveal of how the blackout occurred, but I really liked it. It made a lot of sense to me. I like the fact that they use nanomachines and they're everywhere. There are quadrillions of them around. It makes sense, and I hope it quells the haters who did not think that it was practical for there to be no electricity in the world. If there's a bunch of quadrillions of little nanomachines absorbing all the electricity in the world, it makes sense that there would be a worldwide blackout. I really like this episode better than last week's episode, which I gave a 6 out of 10. This one I gave an 8.5 out of 10. Last week I gave it a bad score because I didn't really like some of the cliche stuff, mainly the fight scene that they have, the 3-on-30, which I thought was kind of lame and just a little bit over the top. I don't like stuff like that. But this week they kind of toned down the cliche things a little bit, and they focus more on the story and the characters, which I like a lot more than just over-the-top action, especially when they have to dumb down the bad guys. You guys joke a lot about how the Stormtrooper effect, but in Star Wars, apart from Return of the Jedi, the Stormtroopers were pretty proficient at their job, and even if they weren't, it's a 2-hour movie. If every week we have the soldiers, the militia soldiers, not being able to take on 2 or 3 guys, it just gets a little bit pathetic, and it's kind of hard to suspend your disbelief. But this week they did a really good job of just sticking with the story and not being as cliche. Apart from when Neville escaped, I thought that was a little bit of cliche. I saw that one coming a mile away. I also kind of saw his son betraying him and getting the location of where Neville was going. I understand that they had to do that to progress the plot line, so it was understandable for this particular situation. But it's good to see that Neville's character has progressed. It's progressed in a manner in which everyone kind of expected it to go, that he would eventually have to leave the militia for whatever reason, and I think we're moving to that particular scenario. I'm looking forward to the back half of this season. Like as I said before, I think they're setting it up for something big, and I can't wait for the confrontation at the Tower and the confrontation between the militia and Georgia. It's going to be great. All right, guys, I enjoy the podcast, and I'm looking forward to hearing the feedbacks. I love hearing everyone else's opinion of the show. And talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.
See ya.
Could you make more noise with those?
I can't hear it.
You can't?
Nope.
I can. Maybe it's not being picked up on the recording. Jason, you're not Jason, you're Jeremy. He has these chocolate eggs with a hard candy shell around them, and he's spinning them around on the desk. Can I have one, please? Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Anyway, what did you think about Comey's feedback?
Liked it. Now I have chocolate on the brain, but he talks about kind of the inevitability with Tom. A lot of us saw that he would be leaving.
Sure.
So
I still the Jason double cross I didn't see coming.
But the lack of cliche things. And I agree. We had a lot more, I guess, of a smooth episode this week. We didn't deal with a whole lot of, I guess, the same song. But in a sense, we did.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, trying to think when we gonna have to cut this down later. That chocolate good?
Yes,
All right.
it is good. What are you trying to say, man?
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Are you sleep deprived or something? You need more coffee?
I do need more coffee.
All right. Well, anyway, I thought it was good, and you know his comments about some of the cliche things that we saw last week. Definitely, we cut a lot of that out this week. I don't have any hopes though that they're not going to come back to some of that stuff. I don't have any hopes that we're not going to sit through another episode with Miles taking on a team of 15 people and him walking away with the only one breathing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still think we're going to see more of that. But it was nice that they didn't go to it again because last week was enough.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
Probably for 2 weeks. So
I hope not. So, all right. Well, I'm sorry. I wish you were a scientist and not a lawyer. Maybe you could help explain some of the nanites. But we're glad that you called in. All right. Let's listen to the final feedback. We didn't get a whole lot of feedback this week, but this one comes in from Mark.
Hey there, revolutionaries. Mark from Ontario, Canada here. Here are my random thoughts regarding The Song Remains the Same. This was one of my favorite episodes so far. It almost seems like they packed more into it than they normally do. Remembering Neville's backstory from before the blackout, couldn't you just feel Tom itching to put Flynn in his place in order to get back at all the manager types from his past? Randall is lucky Monroe was there, otherwise Tom probably would have snapped him in half. Before the hiatus, we kind of thought Tom's wife Julia was a strong and commanding woman, perhaps even more so than Tom was. After this last episode, I'm no longer following that path. Julia seems quite weak and vulnerable in this episode. Sure, her world is tumbling, but if she was truly the woman many of us thought she was, I think she would have handled herself differently. And what was with that you need to forget Jason bit, as if you could tell a loving mother to forget her child. And do you think Julia knows the true Tom Neville? The one from out in the field who beats and kills people with such vigor and tries to manipulate his own son for his own selfish reasons? Was it just me, or did Rachel seem more emotionally unstable than usual? She was all over the board this episode. She showed anger, fear, despair, determination, tranquility, love, plus a few more I'm not mentioning. It also didn't take her much to go from, Charlie is all I have left, and I'm not going to leave her again, to Charlie, I have to leave again, but you're a big girl, so I won't lie to you that I'm coming back. I really enjoyed the blackout explanation. The nanobots that absorb electricity? I'm sure Randall was the cause of them going wrong, quote unquote, that Rachel talked about. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming story arc with Rachel and Aaron. Are diamonds the standard currency in the Republic? And do you think they're the currency in other territories as well? I really loved that boy band exchange between Jason and Miles. But it made me wonder, what do you think someone like Charlie or Jason would think of music when they finally hear it for the first time? Will they like it? Or think it's annoying noise like our parents think about our music? I love how easy it is to knock people out on TV. A food tray to the head and you're out for several minutes. And how did Tom get that nail from across the room while being handcuffed to the chair? And although I've never tried myself, I don't think it would be that easy to unlock handcuffs with a nail. Or with a knife for that matter, like Jason did. The more I watch Flynn and Monroe together, the more I'm convinced Randall will end up killing the general and taking over the Republic. Of the two of them, Flynn seems more ruthless and determined. Jason's quite the Robin Hood with that bow of his, isn't he? Oh, I was disappointed that there was no talk of Neville escaping from the rebel camp. It's as if it wasn't a big deal. I would have at least expected Rachel to give Charlie an "I told you so." And I'm almost convinced that Miles is Charlie's real father. I think Miles and Rachel secretly hooked up, and when she got pregnant, Miles got spooked and ran off to enlist in the military. Oh well, that's my thoughts for this week. Until next time, keep your candles burning. This is Mark from Ontario, Canada.
All right. Good stuff. Where do you want to start with this one?
Well, we'll start at the top. About Tom wanting to pretty much destroy Randall.
Yeah.
kind of like he did the manager, wanted to do the managers. He brings that in, and we see that. We've kind of mentioned that before, but I think it's good to hit on that again. That we see that dynamic with Randall over Tom. That he's essentially just one of his old managers.
Yeah. And I think that Tom, if it came to a battle of fists, Tom would win.
Right.
But if it comes to a battle of wits, Randall would win. And we kind of talked a little bit about this last week, where Randall is kind of in a dangerous situation. He has surrounded himself by people who would kill him at just the whim of Monroe. But I think he's confident enough, and I don't think he's overcalculating himself. I think he is going to be able to pull off the coup here, and take over the Monroe Republic.
Okay,
I'm with you now. You've predicted it since what, episode 3-ish? That Monroe would not survive the first season, and that Randall is the big bad of the real big bad. I don't think there's any question now that Randall is the real big bad. The question is, will Monroe live throughout the season?
Right.
Or you said even like maybe he's wounded and dies in the season 2 premiere or something like that. I'm with you there. I'm not saying I'm 100% on board, but man, I can totally see that happening now.
All right. Glad to have you aboard.
Choo-choo! Yeah, so he also talks about Julia. We thought that she was the strong woman. And this is something I meant to bring up in the last podcast. I'm glad he brought it up. I kind of mentioned that we would, and we never got around to it. What were your thoughts on Julia's reaction, particularly when Tom comes back to the house all beaten and bloodied?
I liked her reaction there. He comes in, he's like, she turns to the girl she's having tea with and is like, leave.
Get out now. Yeah.
Which showed to me she's still strong. But at the same time, she was kind of submissive to Tom, and maybe that's not a great word for it, but because I still think she's manipulating and pulling some strings behind him, but she acted like she would follow him there. When he mentions forget the child, or forget Jason, you're not gonna forget, and I agree with Mark here. Yeah, she can't just leave her son. And he brings up the other question, does she actually know who Tom really is? And I think the answer to that is probably.
Okay.
I think, assuming that she's pulling the strings, which I'm still in that camp, she's still, I think, still strong. I think that she does know some of the things that are going on, or she assumes some of the things that are going on. She may not have a full and complete understanding that he'd willingly, slowly kill a priest.
Right.
But I think she knows that he's killed innocent people.
He's out there killing people.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm with you on that. I think I'd have the exact same opinion as you on that.
So, totally the exact same opinion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
He brings up, Mark brings up the diamonds as a standard currency, and that's something we didn't even hit on at all.
We didn't. Honestly, I had thought about making a note on it, and then I heard this come in, and so I kind of left it at that.
Okay.
Because this is the second time we've seen diamonds used.
Yeah. So.
At least that I could. Do you recall anything besides the 2?
No, just the one on the farm.
The farm.
I think it was the farm, wasn't it? The drugs, sex and drugs, weren't diamonds in that episode?
Oh, if they were, that's the third one. The one I recall is just 2 weeks ago when. Well, it was last week when Nora and Miles were looking for, what's his face?
Okay.
The guy goes
Jim.
and betrays them.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
Jim. And he goes to the militia.
And gets the bag.
And the guy pays him with diamonds and then gets his diamonds back.
Yeah. So it does look like diamonds are a currency, which kind of surprises me. They're not super rare.
Well, and they're not they're not super easy to get either. They're not rare.
If you don't have a company that's controlling the importation of them so they
Right.
can manipulate the market,
Right.
they're not rare at all. But so I think gold would still be a standard. It's kind
That's
of
what I would
interesting
think.
that diamonds are,
Yeah.
and maybe there's different forms. So like silver, gold, diamond. If you play any video games, you know that everything starts with copper, goes to silver, goes to gold, and sometimes platinum. So I think that precious metals will definitely be a currency in this world.
They should be.
So it's interesting that diamonds are, but maybe they're not the standard currency. Maybe they're essentially just kind of a cheaper form of currency. I don't know.
I don't know either.
So,
I don't know what the value of them
Yeah.
is.
What's the point in a diamond if you can't use it for anything?
Right, exactly.
So,
yeah.
and
And I
we're
don't
not going
see
to
a
have
lot of people
laser
walking around with
cutting.
bling. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking
So,
too.
in this world, I can't see a diamond being worth a whole lot. But at the same time, maybe they can do something with diamonds. Maybe they use them to cut things. I don't know. So,
Yeah, so it's something worth keeping an eye on, and
Mhm.
I'm glad that he brought that up.
Yeah. He also brings up the unlocking handcuffs with a nail. And
And
this
a
kind
knife.
of... And a knife?
Well, Jason unlocked it with his knife.
Did he?
Yes. Which he had one of those flip blades open where, you know, the blade, lock blade tucks into the handle.
Yeah.
And he flipped it open and jimmied the...
So they got like the 50-cent like goof off handcuffs at Dollar General or
I
something?
guess. Because there's no way that would have worked either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I didn't even pick up on the knife. But yeah, the nail. I was just going to say this leads to he broke out before he got the nail, because if they were that easy to break out of to begin with, then he probably just broke out of them and picked up the nail and used it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either. It's interesting. I was trying to think back through that scene when Jason does bust him out, you know, just not for real, but you know, tricks him. If maybe they didn't get if Jason recuffed him, maybe Jason didn't put him on fully or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think we get that for sure, though. Just another theory.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all kinds of good feedback that we got this week. Thanks to everybody who called in. We'd love to have your thoughts as well. For next week's episode, which we mentioned is the night the lights went down in Georgia. You can call us on the Golden Spiral Media voice feedback line, which is 304-837-2278. Go straight to voicemail. Call anytime. You can email us over at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/goldenspiralmedia. And if you want to participate in our Revolution Twitter poll each Tuesday, you can follow us on Twitter at GSM Podcasts. So let's get into that Twitter poll. All right. So we had a lot of good responses this week. Appreciate everybody that sent in a response. I got the question out a little bit earlier, which probably helped.
Hey, good job.
The question was, are you happy with the explanation of the power outage? And there's two questions. Are you happy with the explanation of the power outage? Were you surprised by the cause? The nanites. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you know, we didn't really get a whole lot of explanation. It's kind of two things right there. So the responses came in, and the first one's from Fringe Nos. I hope I pronounced that right. Partly, we don't know how these things work and why they don't affect our body electricity, for example, but creative. Orion 321 says, we've reached a point where science and technology have advanced that it may be far beyond our ability to regulate and control it. Best response of the week. That's a quote from Nina Sharp from the pilot of Fringe.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice, Orion. Princess T. Taylor says, I kind of figured we wouldn't get an in-depth explanation, but microscopic organisms? I'll buy it. I'm intrigued. And then Orion comes back with another response and says, loved it. More realistic and believable, considering the advancements of nanotechnology and self-replicating discovery bots. Speaking of bots, Fancy Fembot says, nothing. She retweeted me. Never mind. Camray says, I'm pleasantly surprised as I'm very into nanotechnology. Just hope the little tease is just the tip of the iceberg. It's cool that she's into nanotechnology. I thought it was a small field. This comes in from Lou Ferrigno. Looks like Lucy has some more splaining to do. Seems like Rachel doesn't have all the answers herself. I wonder who does. Jay Connell says, at least it's an answer, but did Rachel and company create the nanocomputers? Are they naturally occurring and they discovered them? Good questions, I think, Jay. Jim in Wisconsin says, very happy. It makes sense. As long as they are self-aware and try to stop their own destruction or merge into one big bot. That would be interesting.
Or a time machine.
Oh, shut it. Foamy Once says, I am content. I'm really glad someone doesn't just have to flip a lever or push a button to make it come back. I agree. Rev Fan Podcast says, I was disappointed because of the hype. Seemed like we were supposed to learn more. Didn't learn much about the tower. Test 315 says, I wasn't expecting nanites, but technology gone wrong or being misused? I'm good with that. I find it intriguing. Gibbinator says, it makes more sense than most J.J. Abrams mysteries. I'll take it. Zort70 says, I'm happy. It explains a lot and fits with what we have learned. Surprised it has been revealed so early, though. However, the solution to switching the power back on seems too simple. One does not simply walk into the tower. That's right, I did the hand gesture.
Yeah.
Yogabon says, there's more to explain, but this works fine. Marksman Design says, I like the idea. It makes more sense than a computer virus or anything EMP. Looking forward to where they take the story. Jeremy, you'll like this one. From Weezery, midichlorians, anyone?
Yeah.
Jack Pierre Point says, yes, overall, but it does seem a bit of anticlimactic to me. It needs more explaining. Zeppelin Driver says, using nanobots, interesting reveal. Need more info on how deployment plan was hijacked by Flynn or an accident. And the last response comes from Toa of Pi. He says, not sure. It was interesting. I'm glad they didn't dwell on it, though, and are still moving the plot forward. And then he tweets back and says, I changed my mind. Now I'm surprised that the blackout wasn't caused by time-traveling clones.
Boo.
I like that. So lots of good responses. So it seems to me like most people liked it, but aren't completely satisfied because they didn't get into a whole lot of detail. How does Jeremy fall on these questions?
Well, I find it intriguing for sure.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I have the most difficult time with is how fast do they spread? How quickly do they? Which I guess is the same question as how quickly do they replicate? If they're replicating, well, what are they getting the material from? If it's just energy, I can understand that they're self-sustaining, but where are they getting the material to create new nanites? And then from there, there's a whole plethora of just other questions that I'm really curious to find out. But I think at the moment, maybe I shouldn't knock it too much and just say maybe they'll answer that. So
I think they will answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll get a flashback in the lab where they're discovered, and we're looking at them under a microscope, and we're seeing how they reproduce, and we're seeing how they respond to stimuli or other.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay with stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll come.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing that I think bugs me the most is if they reproduce at a rate fast enough, why can't people feel them, essentially? So, I mean, if they're producing so quickly, how do they not just take up all the space? What prevents them from taking up all space? So, I can't remember who tweeted the builds like a bigger robot or whatever can be combined into something larger, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I can definitely see like a Matrix / Star Wars kind of manipulation of the world around them, the Force, if you will, with this whole thing. I'm glad somebody else pointed that out, but I find that interesting. And now that JJ's filming Star Wars or directing Star Wars, that maybe he'll be inspired more for that. But I mean, we know that he's inspired by Star Wars already. So I think that, I mean, it's an interesting direction to go. So, I mean, there's only so many places you can go with sci-fi, and that's a huge sci-fi ploy. You have it in a ton of games and stories. So,
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I like it. I think it's a bit interesting that I don't recall seeing anyone throw out a theory like this, and they could have, and I missed it, or they could have, and I don't recall it. But with other JJ projects, particularly with Lost, we used to throw out nanobots a lot, with the smoke monster in particular. That was the theory for a long time. Even they came out at some point and said, no, it's not nanotechnology, and we still didn't believe it because it seemed to be the most plausible thing. And frankly, the explanation we got for the smoke monster wasn't satisfying in the least. But back to Revolution, it's an interesting thing. There is definitely more explanations that come. I didn't expect us to get a full-on answer of everything about how the power outage occurred in this episode. I think, frankly, if you were expecting that, I think you were expecting too much.
Yeah.
I like that they gave us an answer as to what caused the blackout. It seems plausible enough to me. Yes, I do have questions about how is it not affecting the human body, because we do have electricity, and if you're breathing them in and
Right.
they're getting into your system, you would think that there would be something going on there. And maybe there's enough difference between the way electricity works in our bodies and in the other parts of the world, or in the real world or whatever. I don't know enough about it to even speculate on that. But I think it's a good explanation. I think it sets us down on a creative path. And, I love the idea that these nanobots are out there and what will be done with them. Will there be new nanobots created that will somehow destroy the current ones that are out there? Or, because I think she said you can't reprogram them. I think Aaron said, hey, we could just reprogram them. And she says, no, it's not that easy, or you can't do that or something. So I think like I said, I think they gave us enough of an answer to be satisfied for this point in the story. I didn't expect there to be the whole be-all, end-all to the detail of it. So I'm happy.
All right. Overall, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Direct says it's an enigma wrapped in a riddle. I like it.
nice.
Nice way of putting that. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the podcast, I think, unless you have anything else to add.
Nope. That's good.
I gave our contact information again. I'll run through it again real fast. Call us on the Golden Spiral Media voice feedback line at 837-304-2278. Email us at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at GSM Podcasts and Facebook.com/Golden Spiral Media. I mentioned in the last podcast that May is a big month for me as I'm doing this as a full-time commitment. You can check out the website over at goldenspiralmedia.com. There's some contact places over there. The website business that I own is Dramatic Traffic. I'd invite you to go check that out as well. If you're looking for help getting a podcast started, or if you're looking for someone to produce your podcast for you, let's say you want to do a podcast, but you don't know how to do audio editing or music or any of that other stuff, I can do that for you as well. So contact me through Golden Spiral Media. Or you can contact me either way. They're all going to come to me. So I'll be happy to help you out with those projects and help you get started in podcasting. It's great.
It's
Okay.
fun. Yeah.
It's fun. It's a blast. All right. Anything else from you, Jeremy?
Negatory Ghostwriter.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Revolution Podcast. We look forward to talking about next week's episode together and hope that you join us for that. And until next time, I want to remind you, Jeremy, that you can't rely on your boy band face in a post-apocalyptic world.
At least I have a boy band face. And size matters.
Okay. The Revolution Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Kripke Enterprises, Warner Brothers, or NBC. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. For advertising opportunities, live show, and other Golden Spiral Media podcast productions, visit goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media.
I remember your glue. Everything you say to me, bounce stuff sticks to you.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Your insults pass right through me like nanites.
Ah, touche.